Okay, welcome everybody. This is the parallel session about digital literacy, a basic skill to survive in the digital age. As you know, we were going to organize the session twice, but due to technical reasons, we are going to have it only once, and this will be the first and the last one. And I would like to thank to our organization, Turkish Employment Agency, İşkur, has taken the responsibility for organizing this session, and I also thank to our valuable speakers for also contributing in the session. My name is Emrullah Uludağ. I am a member of the Waves family. I used to work in the Ankara office, Waves Ankara office. And since 1.5 years ago, I have moved to the presidency of the Republic of Turkey. I have been seconded there as a representative. But thanks to my superiors, my director general is also here. I would like to thank him and my head of the department. They allowed me, they gave me the opportunity to be here among you. So it's a privilege once again, and I thank them as well. Okay, we have 6 speakers normally. Maybe one of them is on the road, I'm not sure, but we will see. We have a speaker from the Swedish PES, Arbetsförmedlingen. We have a speaker from the Vietnamese PES, Molisa. We have a speaker from Google, Microsoft, World Bank, and Kettani consulting firm. I have already informed you about the recent change. Here is how it's going to be. I will call speakers one by one. Since we do not have enough chairs on the stage, we will not be using that part of the stage anymore. So each speaker will come and present their presentations here on the stage, and they will go back to their post. And at the very end of the session, we are going to have the question and answer. So if you have any questions, please take note and do not forget them, because it will take a while until we reach the question and answer session. And I hope we will have a good interaction, because we will take the questions as the speakers will be sitting among you. So it's a good interactive way, I suppose. First presentation will be from Sweden. Anna Palmgren, Miss Anna Palmgren from Arbetsförmedlingen will be presenting. She is head of the digital engagement unit, and she graduated from behavioral science department, and she has been with Arbetsförmedlingen since 2005. And now I invite her to hear her presentation. Thank you. Please.
Thank you for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Palmgren, and I work at the Swedish Public Employment Service, or PES, as you call it here. And I'm going to talk to you about the digitalization in Sweden, and also what we do in Arbetsförmedlingen, and see what we can do in the future. If we start with Sweden, this is a beautiful picture from the west coast in Sweden. We have actually talked about the digitalization for a while. I think most countries have, but you can really see that things are happening now. For instance, the customer needs are huge. All the customers all over Sweden have needs, and they want to have something back. They can't just decide that I go into an unemployment center and I stay there and I get my help. They want to use the digital first move. And so the government have to change the way they work with the digitalization. And we have to think differently, because the people need that from us. And what we do then, of course, is that we look at what all the other governments do, and the companies, of course. because they have also realized that this is the way to the future. They have started many years ago, but now they see that the results can probably make them a new market. Like we heard in there are so many new job opportunities due to this new digital area. So I think if you think about the future now, there is nothing is going to go as slowly as it is now. It's going very fast, we think, but it's very slow if you think in the future. So if we talk about the digitalization, you could also say that you can't just develop things because you think they're interesting or you find them funny, or you have to see the need in the development that you do. What's in it for me? Like, for instance, me. I didn't really think the digitized era was mine until I one day realized that I have to climb the mountain. I have to go the hard way first in order to ski downhill later on. So have you all parked your car? I think you have. Maybe one or two of you have used a coin or maybe a card in this machine when you park your car. I did, at least, until last year, when the machine wasn't working. And I was standing there in line, and the rain was pouring down, didn't have an umbrella, felt really mad that the machine didn't work. And it said on the screen there that you could use this app instead. And it took a while to download the app. I had to connect my card to the app. But after a while I was done, maybe 10 minutes later or something, and I found it a bit, annoying that I had to wait for this. But the day after, I realized how good this was. Because I could sit in my car, I could use my app, I didn't even have to stand in line. And I saw all those people standing there in front of the parking machine, waiting for it to be used. And of course, it didn't work the day after either. And I could just sit there, and it took me maybe 1 minute at the most to do something that used to take 10 minutes. Maybe you recognize yourself in this, because sometimes it takes a little while to go over the hill, and then you can ski downhill. So Arbetsförmedlingen is working with this. We do these things. We try to make things easier for all our customers or job seekers. So what we do is, for instance, applications. Like I told you, the parking app. We have 3 now, and we're working on a few more, actually. They're used a lot. The job seekers find them very easily used, and they find them useful as well. It's not just something that people say, use the app. They find it themselves, which is also a good thing in the digitized era. We also have something called webinars. Webinars is like live casts films. They are live, and you can chat with somebody at the same time. One employer office is sitting there and chatting with you at the same time. And you could also see them, if you haven't had the time exactly when it was live broadcasted, you can see it later on another day when you find it interesting to see it. We also have podcasts. And podcasts are something that you listen to when you have the time. I think most of you use podcasts quite a lot. And maybe you don't even think about that you're using a podcast. And can you learn at the same time? It's the best thing. So we try to have short and long parts of podcasts that you could use. If you're biking to your job or your education or wherever you go, you can listen to it. And we also have recruitment meetings online. Like, for instance, if I want to employ somebody who usually lives in the north of Sweden, I live in the south, it takes quite a long time for me to go there by train or car or bus or something. But if I use an online service that we have, it goes really, really quickly. And it's also safe. I know you all think about this, if you can use it safely these days, but this one is. And we have seen that lots of employers use it and find it very good. We also have digitala jag. It's a Swedish expression, but it's a cooperation we have with Google, actually. We found the same need in that the digitized era have to come from underneath. We can't decide that everybody has to do this. You have to find it again in your own will, that I want to be more digitized, but I don't know how. So we created a website together with Google called Digitala Jag, which helps you to hire up your digitalized competence. For instance, if you have a mobile phone, you could identify yourself with that. You probably can in many countries, but not everybody knows how to use it. So we made a very simple way of knowing how to use it. So today, about 88% of all our job seekers use this. We're very happy about that. And also we have something for our internal parts. All our employers at Arbetsförmedlingen need to have a very good competence in the digitized era. And what they do then is that they use our digitalportalen, which is something that we have found for our own safety. Because of course, if all the job seekers run fast in this digitized way, we have to come along, we have to be ahead and feel like we own it. Today, maybe not everybody feels the same way in Arbetsförmedlingen, so we have to help them out. You might know some of these things. I just want to tell you a little bit about the Swedish FAQs. We are today local employment offices clustered into 11 market areas, and we also have 14,500 employees. 11,000 of them meet our customers or our job seekers every day. And 67% of us are women. Good that I'm standing here then, because we are mostly women. The average age is 47, so I'm much younger, of course. And many professions are represented, such as psychologists and physiotherapists. We have decided that we want to offer our job seekers as many possibilities as possible. And we have 280 local offices today. When I was in Brussels 2015, we were 340 around that, so we have decreased a little bit. And what have we done? Well, we're going from local loyalty to digital first. We have realized that being large in a local office isn't really helping the customer as good as we want to. So we have to take the digital way first, which means we have to listen to what the customers are asking us about, and we have to think about ourselves. Do I really think digitally first now that I'm working as an unemployment officer, or do I think about the normal way of doing it? Which is usually that we sit down with the job seeker and we talk to them. Those meetings have to be exclusive these days. Those meetings should be, of course, for the people who need them, but not to everybody. And this is a different way of thinking for us, because we are used to working in a way we have all these years, but now we have to think differently. And that's what I'm working with. Because I work at a department called Digital Engagement, and we work with trying to help people to change their culture, change their mindsets, instead of just thinking, oh, I'm going to tell everybody that this is a good thing. It might not happen like that. We have to give them the tools, the educations. We have to package all the news that fall down from the sky. That's at least what people say that it feels like. And we have to package it down so everybody can do whatever they feel like. When they have the time, they can actually use our educational skills. And I think maybe this is the way to go, not just telling people what to do, instead helping them and inspiring them to do the mindsets change themselves. We also believe in digital networks, such as digital coaches. These are employment offices that have decided that they're very interested in this way of thinking, and they want to help their fellow employees, and they want to be the person who stands in the front, and I'm the early adapter. These people have a network today, and they help each other with tips and ideas that they can bring forward, and in that case, maybe they can actually influence the leaders, because all us managers, we have to do the same thing. sometimes we have to step forward and say, okay, we have to change our way of thinking. The mindset is not just for every people that I work with every day. It's also about me. I have to do the change, which is sometimes a bit difficult, I have to say. So what we have in the future then, because of course you're thinking, okay, this sounds good. So what are you going to do in the future? Well, we're talking about 3 generations of matching between the job seeker and the employer. We used to be the person who held the hand of the job seeker, and we walked to a company and said, this is a really good person, shouldn't you try to employ her or him? And of course, if the company said no, it was a very hard job. You had to work very hard to get one person into a job. Not very efficient, we have to say, in retrospective. And now, today, what we do is that we have like a database that match for us, but still, we are manually using it. Like, for instance, I go in and I have a look, how many people do we have in this database, and what can we do? The database is doing something for us, but it's not doing all of it. So in the future, in the 3rd generation, the computer is doing it for us, sort of like a dating site. We call it, well, you can say that we call it an ecosystem, that everything works together. For instance, if I'm looking for a job, I'm a job seeker, I just have to write my profile down once, and it gives me all the opportunities to new jobs. Wouldn't that be so great? I think in the future, this is what's going to happen, and we are the matching point. So we're still very, very good in what we do, but we use our personal time at the exclusive meetings for the people who really need the hand walking. So, I want to give you a few tips. Maybe you're already doing this, but increase your own digital maturity. Well, I'm telling you, I didn't have a LinkedIn account in December last year. Sorry. Now I do, and I've seen what kind of possibilities it gives me. It was a bit of a hard mountain to climb again when I had to make this account. I had to write down all my things in my profile. I think you've all done it. It takes a while, and it feels a bit, tough. But once you're there, it's like, wow, it's a new opportunity. I can see so many things that I didn't see before. And I can also follow a few companies that I'm interested in and maybe see what all the governments are doing in the digitalized era. I think also to be an example, be digital and use the digital services yourself. It's easy to tell people to change something, but it's much easier if you're an example yourself. I'm not very digitized, but I have to try, and I can do a few things. And if I can do a few things, I'm sure all over Sweden, people can do that as well. And I'm also thinking, if I increase my maturity and I give a few tips, they are going to do the same, which means we're definitely not going to be as low as we are today. We're going to high the competence, which is good. Also, participate in the digital conversation. For instance, if you have like an intranet or something, use it. Please like things and go into Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn or whatever and use it yourself and see what people are talking about. It gives you a large, what could you say, a stage to see what people are talking about today. And it also gives you help in your leadership. So you can think differently compared to what you thought before. And also, we have to help everybody prioritize. This is the future. We can walk around and talk about it, but if we don't really prioritize this first, I think we might have a problem in the future. Today, Sweden is number 6 when it comes to companies that are, or countries that are ahead in the digitized era. We would like to be first. That means that we have to hire up all the floor, and I think we're on the way, really. So, I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you want to email me, please do so. I don't have any business cards. I work in the digitized era, so please use it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Anna. It was nice to have a well-prepared presentation right after the lunch. So it gives us some positive energy. Thank you very much again. Our next speaker will be from Vietnam, Nu San Liu. Mr. Liu is the Director of National Center for Employment Services, Department of Employment, MOLISA, namely Vietnamese PES, Public Employment Service. He worked in the Ministry of Defense and also carried out the mission of leading the Career and Employment Counseling Division in the Army, Vietnamese Army. He served for a long time as Deputy Head of Labor Market Division in MOLISA, right before becoming the Director. So please welcome on stage Mr. Liu for his presentation.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And this is my first time in Morocco, and it's very impressive for me to have you here and to take part in the World Congress. And for my presentation, I would like to introduce you how PAS systems or webs prepare to develop the digital literacy. So I try, to answer 3 questions. First, what is digital literacy? And why is it important? And how our pets or our webs prepare to develop digital literacy? So first of all, what is digital literacy? I heard you're saying from the Philip Burton, founder of the Five Cats. He said that digital literacy is just like a language. The more the literacy you have, the better you can speak it. So I think, this is so important, not only for our pets, but for the labor force as well. So what is digital literacy? You can see under this umbrella, digital literacy, you can, understand how digital literacy, can be defined. So it, can be defined, through 4 levels of skills. First of all, access. Second, use. Third, understand. And the 4th one is create. So, how to access? It's a problem. You need, opportunity, you need competence to access the computer, the internet, or the technology users, like the newest one is cloud computing. And what about use? Use, use term ranging from the technical know-how to the sophisticated ability for accessing, for using resources, and the use here, and you can use it to for accessing using knowledge resources and for the new emerging technologies like cloud computing is very important for us, and I would like to discuss a little bit more about cloud computing platform here. And what about understand? Understand, means that to comprehend, to conceptualize, and evaluate the information and the resources that we have found in the internet. And the also understand also mean that skills to manage, information, to make it use, and to communicate, to collaborate, and solve problem as well. And what about create? Create here that means produce content. So what about content? Content is just like information. You have heard a lot job vacancy, job seekers, and we use that information to produce just like analytical report on the labor market, or to confirm or to give your idea about the labor market trends. So I would like to give you some examples of digital skills versus digital literacies. Talking about, and you can see a difference between digital skill and digital literacies. With digital literacy, not only sending an email, that's the ability to trust the appropriate digital channel or for online communication with others. And talking about digital literacy, not only using Microsoft or other software or other apps, but that's the ability to articulate, the benefits or drawbacks of each tool and evaluate, which is most effective. Okay, when you search for information on the internet and then other technological tools. And talking about digital literacy, not only tweeting or posting to Facebook or uploading a video or resume or other things to the internet, but that ability to navigate social media safely. Yes. And talking about the digital literacy, not only conducting Google search, but that's the ability to, effectively use online search, as a search tool. Yeah. And from conventional to digital literacy, quite different. Okay. Digital literacy, it's a multi-definition. And when compared with traditional one, you can see for digital literacy, not only finding information, but it's, vetting information, reading, skimming, note-taking, curating, and other things. And finally, the bottom line here, for the traditional literacies, something is permanent. But for the digital literacy, it's changing, okay, change a lot. So, okay, final slide for the for the answer for the what is digital literacy. You can see the new digital literacies here can be defined through 6 levels. First of all, just find and vet information, online, and the second one is see problems from the digital perspective. The third one, becoming self-directed learners, and the fourth one is obtain digital solutions. And the fifth one is learn software or adaptability, quickly for the new technology tools. And finally is, design and create digital solutions. That is, you can see the, now you can understand, what is digital literacy. And I would like to go to the conclusion for this part. And as you see, we can make sure that the digital literacy is a survival skill in the digital era. And not only me, but you and others as well. You would like to, to survive in the digital world. You must make it as a priority. And why is it important? Yes, it is really important. But why? I would like to show you some example. We are now live in a connected world. You can see here on the right, left hand, the share of population using the internet. Okay, and the huge difference between the time point of 2015. Okay, the yellow one is the time of 2000, and the blue one is 2015, and the huge difference. Vietnam, Yeah, here. So, in 2000, very later connection, internet connection, but 2015, okay, quite different. And for the number of internet users in Vietnam, you can see here in 2018, yes, more than 55 million people using, internet. Yeah, using. I'm sorry, not 35, 55, more than half of Vietnam's population. And number of smartphone users, in top 15 countries. Vietnam not in top 15 countries, smartphone users, but the number of smartphone users in Vietnam grows very steadily and very huge population, using smartphone users, especially for the young people from the age of 15 to 40, yeah. So, in the area of e-commerce, you can see top 5 countries: China, United States, Japan, United Kingdom, and Germany, with 100,000 billion made from e-commerce, revenue. And of course, through this applying e-commerce in the trade, in the economic development, a lot of jobs created through this application. And for Vietnam, we are now in the early stage of development, but in 2016, the e-commerce reached 1.8 billion US dollars, and moved to 2017, nearly double, 2.1 billion US dollars. So for the retail e-commerce sales, you can see here the quick development, especially for the countries in the Asia Pacific, including Vietnam here. Yeah, you can see the development of the retail e-commerce sales. And seems impact all of us here for the change of market recruitment trends. You can see yesterday I talked to my colleagues from the United States. All of the job available job vacancies in the United States now online. There are no longer job advertisement in newspaper or other tools. And I would like to show you here WorkNet. WorkNet is one of the employment information from Korea. Okay, is there any colleagues from Korea here? No. Okay. More than 200,000 job vacancies available online through this network, and we are now applying this model from Korea, and we are now carrying out the project with Korea to develop public employment service system for information for Vietnam. And LinkedIn, you already heard about LinkedIn. It started from the mid of 2000 from zero, but it is now, how much does it cost? More than 30 billion US dollars for the LinkedIn. Yeah, a lot of, you can see here the trends of the recruitment, online. And for the ICT facilitated increased teleworking, with the United States, 20%, Japan 60%, and for at work and at home, in the statistics here show in the situation of the United States. And it is said that, ICT, is a mass, is a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, interesting to hear about that. It's a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, when you bring work at home and during your work you use technological tools to apply for your work and also for the other things. Okay, and for Vietnam, the digitization is very much close, with the higher wage and job creation, especially for the e-commerce, as I have shown. And Vietnam also is a top of 20 countries have the biggest number of app developers. So we also found that IT personnel in very high demand. In 2015 it ranked the 5th, but in 2016 it ranked the 1st. And the position, okay, this is a survey from Manpower Group of Vietnam, that the position that would impacted by digitization here, just with IT and human resources and from a customer and other positions. So for Vietnam, you can see the demand for the IT personnel is very high. So that reflects that the IT skills are constrained to employment. You can see here, Vietnam, okay, lack of ICT skills that employment very much in high demand. And for the last 3 years, you can see the IT jobs has doubled, and just only here in last year, the IT recruitment demand for 80,000, for 80,000. But actually, the graduate of our country just only supply for 30,000. Only 30,000. Okay. So, is it important? Okay, quite important. Yes. And okay, the final part that I would like to share with you, and I think it's a very interesting part. That is digital literacy is the skill to build for surviving in the digital age. And you can see here the stage in digital transformation, starting from incipient, from the beginning, and the second stage is transitioning, and the third stage is transforming. And for the incipient, or starting from low skill base, okay, low technology base, and foundational cognitive and social, emotional skill. But for the transitioning, it required medium one, and transforming require higher one. Yeah. But the important thing is digital literacy. If you want to be a digitally literate, you must combine with lifelong learning. And the PES role, or our web's role in here is to support and the transition to new skill and new job. I think is our PES role. And to achieve that goal, we need bidding for our PES system. Yeah. And you can see here the disconnection between stakeholders in the labor market. And these disconnections are driven by gaps in information, poor incentive, and weak capacity. So we need narrowing down the gap between stakeholders. Better connection means better information and better incentive and capacity. And we, make for the training actors must offer programs, to produce graduates to meet the demand of the labor market. And so the solution, how is the solution? E-learning, I think, is the best solution. Okay, the best solution. We have a session about e-learning. But in my presentation, I don't want to talk about the advantages of the e-learning. But I really would like to propose, okay, for our PES, for our webs, to apply this solution based on, the cloud computing to, to train, for our PES staff. And but, the important thing is how to do that. For webs, we cannot, have enough money or capacity for, for developing an, training center like ILO one in Turin, Italy. But we can, apply this solution because it's very cheap. And, the running is, don't need, so many resources. So I think it's one of the best solution for us to apply for our staff training. And the problem is how to develop the curriculum, the content, you know, to train our staff, you know, to this solution. So thank you very much for your attention. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lu. It was a presentation full of very useful information, and we see the development of Vietnamese pace and also the society itself. Now, we heard our public employment services in the room, two of them. Now it's time to go to the private sector. And our next speaker is Nazlıcan Yöney. I'm very confident that I have pronounced it accurately. And since she is from Google Turkey branch, and she is working as product marketing manager, and she is leading consumer marketing projects of the Turkey branch of Google, including Grow with Google initiative. And she is a political scientist with an MBA degree, and she worked for Microsoft and Turkcell previously. And she is mainly interested in human side of the technology world. Now we are very much looking forward to her presentation. Please welcome on stage Nazlıcan Yöney.
Hello, thank you. Before I start, I would like to thank you for the kind invitation of the National Employment Agency of Turkey. Thank you for your kindness. Today, I would like to talk about one of the most ambitious projects of our company, Grow with Google. But before I start, I would like to talk about a little bit myself. Don't worry, it's going to be very short and painless, so that you can see the connection with me and the project that I'm leading right now. I graduated from the political science, and it wasn't, as you can imagine, something popular among Turkey studying politics in the university. I did it because it's almost family heritage for me. Everyone in my family for generations, whether they're a politician or bureaucrat or soldier, who are obsessed with the idea of serving to Turkish society. So according to their plan, after I graduated from the university, I'm going to be a whether ambassador or, I don't know, governor, someone who's going to work in the public sector. But instead, I got my MBA degree and started to work at the tech companies. Because for me, giving back to society in my generation, in my perspective, is helping them to increase their digital skills and digital capacity. And I'm so happy to find a company who has the same vision, just like I have. This quotation is from our, I'm sorry, it's mixed because of the formats, but this quotation comes from our CEO, Sundar Pichai, who says that at Google, our mission is to make sure that information serves everyone, not just a few. So with this perspective, if we circle back to the Grow with Google vision, I will talk about very briefly. By the way, did you take the photo that you want? You did? Okay. So, if we come back to the Grow with Google vision, as we all know that we are living in a brave new world today, the technology and internet developing so quickly that unfortunately sometimes our job market cannot catch its trends. I would like to give some data from EU. I will talk about the Turkey in a very short time. According to the latest data in EU, 44% of the EU population and 37% of the labor workforce has insufficient level of digital skills. And also, it's forecasting that in the next 3 years, there will be almost 500,000 positions which requires ICT skills will be unfulfilled because the job market is not ready for it. Even today, in 4 of the 10 companies says that they cannot find enough employees because that they are looking for someone who have digital skills. So within this respect that we would like to launch Grow with Google firstly in EU. And I'm so happy to say that this project becomes so successful that the project is enlarged to EMEA region. It starts with the EU, then we put the Russia and Turkey and Africa, and today the Americas and also the APEC countries join us. So what is the Grow with Google? It is actually the platform, both online and offline, where you can learn digital skills. And let me give a couple of examples about the training lectures so that you can understand what is it. For example, you're a kid who would like to learn basic coding languages. There you go, you can learn anything that you want. Or you're a talent who would like to show your talent to the world. For example, you're a storyteller and you don't know where to start. You can learn how to become a YouTuber from the platform. Or you're an SMB who would like to have online presence. You can be there. Or you're in an NGO or you're in a museum who would like to have an online presence so that you can increase your funds. Anything, you name it. If you have any necessity that you would like to increase your digital capacity, this is the platform where you can gain it. The Grow with Google is, as I say, combining online and offline, also the coaching sessions for the users. And since it's not profit maximizing project, we're not only talking about Google services and products, we're talking about all players. So until today, we have been launched only in EMEA, 53 countries. In all over the world, we launched it in the 70 markets so far. And we train millions of people. But we're not doing it for the sake of training millions of people. What is important for us, having a real impact of people's life. Therefore, we are working with the Ipsos. We are sending Ipsos surveys to our alumni to check whether is there any real impact over the people's life after they get their certification. So according to the data, as you can see from there, almost 2,000 of people find a job or start their own business or they become freelancers thanks to the trainings they get. And 30,000 of the business took on more stuff because when you support the digital economy, as you know, we also helping to unemployment issue in the markets. And more than 500,000 businesses also reported that their revenue and number of the consumers is increased thanks to the trainings. So it's a great way, great starting, but there is so much way to go. So for the next 3 years, we do have two main pledges. First in EU. In EU, including Turkey, we would like to help 1 million people find a job after our trainings. And in Africa, it's even bolder. We would like to train 10 million African people, including 100,000 of developers by the next 3 years. So this is the general Grow with Google vision. If you look back to the how we are handling it in the Turkey, last year we launched it, by the way, and when we deciding that should we launch it in Turkey, should the market need it, we made very desk research in detail and faced with the ugly truth, actually. The Turkish people are basically lack of digital literacy from the old generations. Let's start with from the younger ones. Our kids are digitally illiterate. Only one computer per 45 students in the normal general standard Turkish schools. So it's not surprising that we ranked quite low at the PISA surveys. I feel so shameful when you're taking the pictures of this slide, by the way. Just go ahead. And so it's not surprising that when these youngsters, when these kids become youngster, they're digitally still illiterate and unemployed. And there's also a link between these two problems because we are the #1 country in OECD in youth unemployment in regards of need. We are much worse than Greece and Spain if we limit the, the segmentation with the needs. And also Turkey has the lowest ICT staff capacity, especially if you compare the, Turkey standard with the EU one. So when this, by the way, we're very good at, consuming social media. I'm not talking, being digital literate, not using, but consuming social media. We are using it, digital literacy, by producing something out of technology and internet. So when these youngsters become adult, part of them establish their business, and not surprisingly, they also don't know how to use technology. Half of our Turkish SMBs do not have any email addresses. Actually, I just talked with an SMB in the past, and he says that every time he forgets his password, he gets a new email addresses. It's such a fundamental problem, right? So 75% of them do not have any website at all, and 33% of them actually just postponing to using technology because they don't know how to handle it. They basically get afraid of it. It seems like it's a rocket science for them, although it is not. So everything is so clear that the market needs it. So this is a great project. In both terms, it requires so many things, and it's a very bold vision. So from day one, we are so lucky to have the right partner, which is National Employment Agency. Thank you very much for your partnership. So, why did we launch this project in Turkey? Because we do believe in the potential of the country. That's why we're working with the thousands of people and hundreds of the business to increase their digital skills. Let me talk very briefly about our mechanism that we launched last year. There's a two training model, online and offline. In the MOOC version, there is more than 100 videos. These videos are updated quarterly. We're updating their content and also the numbers on regular basis. And these 100 videos start from the very basic digital skills up until the quite sophisticated marketing tools. And we're not just talking about the digital marketing and so, we're also talking about what is the big data, what is the machine learning. These kind of terms are quite sexy to use in the sentences, but we're using them, although we don't know how the mechanism is working. So we have 101 level of videos so that you can understand what is the mechanism behind. It's not a rocket science, actually. And for example, you can use big data in your business in the future. So after these 100 videos, but don't get afraid, these videos are quite short and so easy to watch. There's a pop quizzes that you need to pass to watch the other video. And if you fulfill all the videos and pop quizzes, there's a one grade exam that you need to pass. And when you pass it, you earn your certification from Google and National Employment Agency of Turkey. With this mechanism, we trained almost 60,000 of users, which is a kind of record for Turkey because we do not have any MOOC tradition in our past. But we can use this online platform for reaching the younger generations. In regards of the older ones, we need to make these trainings face-to-face, obviously. So with the help of our partner, we visit more than 11 cities in our very first year, and we do have quite hyper-local strategy. We don't want to go to the big cities like Istanbul, Ankara, and so. We want to go to the very small, very remote cities of the country because they are the ones actually who needs these skills to improve. When we visit a city, we train young job seekers about the career options in digital world and SMBs to increase their digital capacity. With this strategy, we trained almost 15,000 of users. So as a result, very parallel of our global vision, we are working also Ipsos Turkey to check our real impact over our alumni. And according to the numbers, 73% of our job seekers claim that they feel much more confident in their digital skills thanks to the training that they gathered. And also 60 of our SMBs say that they do have a very positive impact over their business, which means that their revenues increase, their customers is increased. So it is my end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your, again, invitation and attention during this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yunay. We saw a good example of combining online and offline training. Okay, now in the room among us sits a great experience, Mr. Nasser Kettani. He will be our next speaker. He is an information technology expert and he has 30 years of experience in the IT sector. And he is founder and managing director of Kettani Digital Consultancy, a consulting firm right at the moment. And he spent over 12 years at Microsoft, another Microsoft-oriented speaker. And he has been in various positions, including the Chief Technology Officer for the Middle East and Africa region. He lectured in Daphne University in France on software development. He drafted many articles, and even he has a best-selling book on software design and modeling. It's called Demeris UML. I don't know the pronunciation, sorry, but and right now Mr. Kettani advises private and public sector institutions through their digital transformation journey. Please welcome on stage Mr. Ketani. This one.
Digital.
So, thank you. It's a real pleasure for me and an honor for me to be here, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be here. Actually, I live in Morocco, so it was easy for me to drive to Marrakesh. So I know for many of you it's the first time, so welcome to Morocco, welcome to Marrakesh. It's not the first time for me, obviously, and believe me, every time I come here, it's really a nice place. So I will answer 3 questions. Why is it important to have digital literacy? And the second question I would answer is, who is the target of digital literacy, and how do we organize for it? I want us to sort of understand where we are today. This is the first time in history of humanity where we have many disruptive technologies coming at the same time. It has never happened in the history of humanity before. This is not just about digital, it's much bigger. It's much, much, much, much bigger. I want us to realize that this is massive. Everything is being disrupted. And this is because we have massive disruptive technologies here. Anna, I heard the issue you have with your car. Actually, in probably a few years, probably a year or so, you will not have to pay your parking here. Actually, your car will do it for you when you park it. You don't even have to download an app and do it for you, right? I don't know if you realize, but this year, we had, for the first time, we had a computer print another computer that actually drives itself. This is the first time where we have a car which is connected, self-driving car being printed using 3D printer, which is another computer. This is massive. This is just massive in terms of what's going on in the industry. And it's important to understand. So the second thing that is really happening is there are companies who are disrupting other companies by using disruptive technologies because they understand them. They understand deeply to the point that they really disrupt what's going on in the industry. Every organization is going through that. Okay, this is also important to realize. I mean, I put there some names, and and even companies such as GE is disrupting. Google has disrupted the advertising business completely, and other stuff. And others. So I'm not going to go into the details of that. Now, here is the bad news for you. And this is why it's important that we take action now. We are into an exponential growth of disruption of technology and evolution of technology. What happens is that in this century, we're not moving ahead as one century. Actually, the progress we're going to make is the equivalent of 20,000 years. And the issue that we have is that we are still educating our kids the same old way without realizing that we have to go fast. Let me tell you, at the end of this discussion that we will have today, we will probably, with the pace of innovation that's happening, we will probably make another year of progress, just in the few minutes that we're talking here. Massive stuff happening, big acceleration. And the issue is we're not prepared as a society to deal with that. Let me say this, every company that you know of, every company will become a software company or die, period. Every company, small and big. Because every business will be transformed through technology and specifically through software. Specifically through software. Whether we're talking about financial services, healthcare, education, agriculture, transportation, you name it. Everyone will have to become a software business and good at software, otherwise they just have go and die because somebody else will come and just take them away. And that's what's happening. So let me just to set the scene. So as I was preparing for this, I I said, so who should be trained on digital literacy? So I take this example of this accident that everybody was talking about, which is an Uber car, driverless, killed somebody in the road. It's an accident. It's dramatic, obviously, etc. People a lot are talking about it, and to the point that sometimes like, oh, it's dramatic, it's an accident, but actually, this car is probably safer than how we drive. We tend to forget about it. Probably tens of thousands of people dying every year around the world, not just one, right? Now, the question is, when you see this headline, it says, experts say it could have avoided. Now, the question is, who's the expert? And when I start to talk about it, it's like, okay, well, of course, there are the car experts, but in this case, we need to have lawyers understand what's going on. Otherwise, they cannot defend the case. We need to have the judge, they understand what's going on in the car. Otherwise, he will not be able to, in the court, to discuss it, right? And probably the prosecutor. And probably the car manufacturer. And you name it, right? Probably people in the jury understand, what the hell are they talking about? Why? Because that car was driverless. So who made the error? Why did this accident happen? Was it a software design problem? And which software? Is it Uber? Or perhaps a technology that was coming from somebody else doing that? So that's a very simple example, but that shows that actually everybody tomorrow has to understand how these things work. Your doctor tomorrow will not operate the same way as he does today. Why? Because he will use robots, he will use big data, he will use so many different technologies in order to operate and to make diagnoses. If he doesn't understand how these things work, he will do a bad job. Your lawyer, your accountant, everybody. And the question for us is, how do we educate everybody? It's not about just developers. It's not about us in our interactions. So to some extent, we actually have solved the problem of exponential technologies. We're growing technology fast, but we are not growing organizations, we're not growing skills fast enough. That's the challenge that we have. That's the biggest challenge that we have in society. And let me tell you, we're talking about gaps, in digital gaps. Few numbers, but just Europe came up recently with something called the GDPR. You probably heard about it, right? Which is data protection regulation. It's interesting, but this regulation says, listen to this, it says every company in Europe, and not only in Europe, but at least in Europe, must have a data protection officer. Every company in Europe must have, it's by the law, it's by the regulation, you need to have a data privacy officer. This is about 20 plus million companies in Europe. Do you think we have 20 plus million data protection officers today? What a missed opportunity. We've been talking about this for years. We're not even prepared. Nobody did the work to actually prepare to get 20 million jobs there. So we have a big gap. Another example, in cybersecurity, PwC estimate that we have today, in 2 years, we will have a 2 million job gaps in cybersecurity experts. And I can go on and on. Here's another number. GE, I mentioned GE, General Electric. This year, GE will hire data scientists. You know how many they will hire? They will hire, in volume, the full capacity of the data scientists coming out from US universities. Just one company. And guess what? Google wants them. Microsoft wants them. Facebook wants them. Amazon wants them. Tesla wants them. All of them want them. And they go all around the world, trying to get these smart guys, etc., because there is a short gap. We're not training. We're not building the capacity that is required. So what happens is examples like Google of, stepping up and others. I took another example which I found interesting. So I took just to illustrate what I'm trying to. Obviously, this has nothing to do with. But the point is, in France, Microsoft announced sort of a program to train people on AI. It's like, okay, so this is the headline, okay? So I tried to read the headline, and I went on just searching. So this is in one country and one company, okay? And it's interesting that it's coming from private sector, not, only public sector, okay? Then we're training only for 24 students, which is like small, right? So how do you scale this? It's a great initiative, but come on, 24, are you serious? And we're spending, And then the issue is, this is coming from Microsoft customers. Microsoft customers, existing and partners say, we need them. We don't have them. So this is a company hiring not for themselves, not training for themselves, but actually training for their customers, which is even worse. We need AI skills. And they, and then they partnered with a company called Simplon. So they're not doing this alone, which is an interesting NGO. They do an amazing stuff. And then, oops, this is not moving. Yeah. Here is the other thing. The people that are training, they are training, they have an average of 26, so they're young. But the good stuff is, they're even, some older people coming from a diverse group of expertise. Many of them are unemployed. So they're not taking the best developers in the world and train them to AI, right? Even people who are not developers. Actually, this lady is coming from the oil industry in Cameroon, and she had specific knowledge. We have a former school teacher in the group. Very young, etc. We have coders and so forth. So the question here is, it shows that when we want to teach even sophisticated technologies that people are talking about, like AI, we don't need to have the best developers in the world to learn AI. We can train other people to do, something good and to go through the program, right? So it's possible. And the reason I took this example is because it illustrates that something is broken, fundamentally broken. A company like Google, like Microsoft, stepping up, fixing a problem of the education system, which is weird. And it's happening all around the world, by the way. This is happening in France. Google experience happening all around the EU, in Turkey. I know of examples of Microsoft Morocco doing some crazy things here, working with government. It's just unbelievable. So for me, my recommendation is, as I think about digital literacy, and for the reasons I mentioned, this is not an issue of specific people, of a specific target. This is an issue of everybody, because as I said, doctors, lawyers, developers, scientists, you name it, have to understand deeply how technology works in order to be able to do their job tomorrow. And actually, even perhaps, other things. So we need to start now, right? And really reform our education system to make sure that we actually include digital skills, programming, and other things into K-12 university for, really for all. We'll probably need to look into our vocational training. We have many countries who have vocational training programs, et cetera, and institutions, and they also need to focus heavily on digital skills, especially for unemployed people, because as the example we've seen in the case of Microsoft France, they've been able to address that, even on sophisticated technologies like AI. And the other thing is, obviously, this is not the job of one hand. It goes without saying that this is between government, private sector, and NGOs that need to fix the problem together. But we need to start now. We just, not tomorrow, but now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ketani. Actually, while listening to your presentation, I felt like I need an own consultant on my own journey, on my own digital journey. So I hope I will not be killed by a car or another technological device, I don't know. By the way, I hear mobile phones ringing in the room. It's nice to have technological devices disrupting us during the digital literacy session. Okay, now we will have World Bank. Ms. Abla Safir is in the room with us, and she traveled a long way. We are grateful. She is an economist at the World Bank. She conducted analytical and operational works on labor markets, migration, skills, social protection, and service delivery in various regions of the world. These are all very related to the public employment services, so we are talking about the right person. She worked in OECD, again, as an economist, working on migration-related programs before joining the World Bank in 2010. And she holds a PhD in economics and master's degree in statistics and finance. Now we will listen her presentation. Please welcome on stage Ms. Abla Safir. Yeah, this is technology.
And I'm paperless. So.
Yes. Do I have to remove this one as well?
No paper. Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me to present. Thank you very much to my colleagues from ISHKUR for organizing this great session, as we have seen so far with a variety of presenters. I've had the pleasure to work in Turkey with ISHKUR, and in some sense I continue to work. I didn't want to give up even after moving now to Kenya, which is, I would think, a digital champion in Africa, and I'll tell you a bit about this. At the World Bank, we care a lot about these issues. We had, and a number of the graphs that I will present will draw from there, we had a World Development Report 2016 on digital dividends, and our upcoming new World Development Report, which is our flagship publication, is going to be on the changing nature of work. So we think a lot about these issues. Obviously, as an organization, sometimes we catch up with these issues, but I will tell you a little bit about the work that we do on that. I'll have three sort of points in my presentation. The first one is going to be about this increased need for digital literacy, and I'll show some trends that have been shown before, so I may not spend that much time on them, but I will describe that. And then I will argue, and I was glad to see it in the presentations from the Vietnam PES, and also from the Swedish PES, and also from Mr. Ketani, that, and also, in fact, from everyone, on the fact that the sort of Industry 4.0, or the second age of the machine, or whatever you call it, not only calls for digital skills, but also for non-routine skills in general, right? So higher order cognitive skills, etc. And I think it's very important, including for public employment services, to keep that in mind. And I will conclude with policies and some examples. So, oh, sorry, it's the other one that I need to switch. Oh, okay, sorry. So this slide is just about showing the exponential growth, right? And this has been mentioned before. What is interesting is to see that a number of sort of infrastructure that now we are used to, at least in high and middle income countries, like water, sanitation, or education, have moved in a rather sort of linear way, right? You have an increase, but it's relatively linear. On the other hand, mobile phone, internet, mobile broadband, this is where you see that the growth is very different and has accelerated a lot and will keep on accelerating. I don't think I will give you more anxiety than Mr. Ketani on that, but it's really accelerating, right? And in their book, McAfee, and you'll pronounce it better than me, the Swedish best, Brynjolfsson, something like that. When they wrote the second machine age in 2014, they said, they had written a book that was out in 2011, Race Against the Machine, and they said that they had felt the need to write a new book relatively shortly after the previous book because of this acceleration. In that book, Race Against the Machine, for instance, they were describing a number of tasks for which they said, it's going to take another 50 or 60 years, typically the driverless car, right? And just few years later, specialists who had interviewed many specialists, they found out that there was this huge acceleration, right? And that, again, I will, this has been said before, but this is a very important dimension, is the sort of permanent acceleration and sort of acceleration of the acceleration. Now, that said, and I think it's partly my role coming from the World Bank, so working mostly on low-income and middle-income countries, it's important to acknowledge, however, that at this stage, the sort of strictly ICT jobs are still relatively small. And this is data more from 2012, 2013, because it uses micro household data, and for such data, the speed is still not very high. I mean, it still takes time to collect and analyze and all that. But look at this scale. This is 40%. This is not even 100%, right? So the numbers here that we're talking about are around 1%, 2%. So the number of strict ICT jobs is still small. That said, the number of jobs with ICT has increased tremendously. So this is a graph on the change in the use of ICT in employment. And you can see, so between 2000, circa, right? This is a number of household surveys, not all conducted exactly in 2000, but around 2000, and then conducted again around 2012, 2011. And here you can see this increase, right? The increase in the use of ICT is about 30% in a country like Moldova, where I used to work, in South Africa as well, and the OECD, the sort of high-income countries average is at 5%, and the low and middle-income country average is higher at about 8%. And I think that this is what we're talking about, is how pervasive this is. And for low and middle-income countries, again, which are my focus, this is likely to increase even more, right? So this is a cross-country graph that shows you, as you could expect, that countries with higher income have a higher use of ICT. So this is the pool that you see sort of around here. And low and middle income countries are more around here. So I think that this is a case in which it's reasonable to draw a sort of dynamic conclusion from a cross-country graph like this. What we expect is that a number of these countries are going to move more around here, around a higher use of ICT. So that we'll also need to tackle this challenge, I would say now as well. Maybe not April 2018, but May 2018. And you see in a number of these countries that people do mention the lack of ICT as a barrier to employment, including in Vietnam, where it's actually cited by a very high number. And you see here a variety of countries, right? Latin America with Bolivia, Asia, Lao PDR, Africa with Ghana, Armenia in Europe and Central Asia, Kenya, the country where I work. And interestingly, so from here to here is an urban sample, is a sample in urban areas, but these two bars here are in rural areas, and even there, in Lao PDR and in Sri Lanka, you can see a high proportion of people who say that they cannot get a job because of lack of ICT skills. Now, an additional dimension that we care about at the World Bank is inequality in access, right? And this inequality is high, as you can see here. There's an inequality, so this is about the use of internet, and there is an inequality between men and women, but even higher between urban and rural areas, across age groups, and also across income level, between the sort of bottom 2 quintiles of the income distribution and the top 3 quintiles of the income distribution. And this reflects even in the sort of use of internet. I haven't reported the results here, but for instance, in Georgia, in terms of what people use the internet for, you also see a lot of variation. And this relates a little bit to the talks before me on sort of digital, literacy versus digital skills, right? Okay, maybe now larger number of people uses Skype and, and maybe Facebook or things like that, but how many of them actually use it for something that is productive, that is something useful for them? Well, as a person who doesn't have a Facebook, it's easy for me to make fun of use of Facebook, but I know it's actually a good source of news, but fewer people actually use it to typically create a business, to actually generate some income out of it. Yes, I was happy with the Metrica scandal. I thought, okay, I don't have any data there. So, but I think, so one point that I wanted to make, and I'm glad that I have seen it made previously, but somewhat incidentally, but a point that is very important for us, and in terms of policy implication, is that digitalization has an impact that is much broader than just the need for digital skills, right? Digitalization means that a number of routine skills can be automated, and that these skills and the people who have these skills are in some sense not needed anymore in the labor market. And so what needs to be developed by public policies are are higher order cognitive skills that cannot be automated. Oh, excuse me, by mistake, yeah. So, and the sort of digital revolution is good, has been good in terms of income to workers with higher education levels, right? In their case, technology complements what they do, and it is in that sense that the technological change is skills biased, right? But for things that are more routine, adding up numbers, adding up numbers in an Excel file, then now a computer can do it, right? And what we see both in OECD and non-OECD countries is that so this starts in the year 2000, the non-routine cognitive or interpersonal skills have been increasing. So just to be clear, routine is what can be easily replicated, right? It's easy to describe a protocol and to say this task is A, B, C, D. As soon as you can say that, this is it, a computer can do it, right? I'm wondering if making a presentation is routine or non-routine. I think it's a mix, right? But if it's just, okay, come and talk, and whether there are questions or it doesn't matter, then that's pretty much routine. So what you see is that routine skills, which are these blue tasks here, have been decreasing. Non-routine, I should say tasks, sorry. So have been decreasing. Right, and this is also true in developing countries. So there you go, the same. Non-routine has been increasing, and routine has been decreasing. And that, this really is not the topic for today, but this is related to the debates on increasing inequality because of higher returns to non-routine skills. And that means that many jobs can be substituted by technologies, and this is an estimation, as you can see in Croatia, another country where I used to work, as many as 60% of the jobs could be substituted by a computer, essentially, or a robot. Now, if we move to what can be done, right? If I summarize partly what I have said so far, so technology changes the skills that are needed. So there is need for digital skills, but really not only that, right? Non-routine skills. It also accelerates the pace of change. Again, the need to change now. But it also allows new opportunities, right? And this has been described definitely by Google for e-learning. So there are many new opportunities that emerge, and hopefully maybe we can be maybe optimistic about this, as many concerns as there are. So in terms of investing in digital literacy, I wanted to tell you, of a mix of a few things that we have done at the World Bank and also others. So among workers, coding, coding bootcamps have been on the rise, and this is partly what you have, I think this sort of Microsoft initiative in Paris has something similar to that. So we have done an impact evaluation of a coding bootcamp in Colombia, a qualitative evaluation of a coding bootcamp in Kenya. I think so far there is lack of evidence actually on how well these bootcamps work, and I don't know if I can quote my colleagues, but the one in Colombia finds limited effects on employment. So I think there is still need for more work to better understand how to make these work, right? So these coding bootcamps, to tell you a bit more, they're based on the idea of sort of relatively quick learning, experiential learning, and that is driven by the demand of employers. So all very good principles for training in general, but their impact is still mixed. We have worked in Kosovo to promote online work, in particular for women, for whom the unemployment rates were extremely high, and with the idea that these women could take advantage of some, global opportunities, right? Like you said, everybody is looking for good coders, etc. And a place like Europe and Central Asia, with relatively high education levels to begin with, has a lot of promise. In Ukraine, for instance, there's also a lot of online work. And this program, which hasn't gone through a rigorous impact evaluation, but seems to show some promising results to promote employment. And similarly in Georgia, where there was a project in particular in rural areas to promote a better use of ICT. Among firms, we have initiatives to promote incubators and startups, typically bringing in expertise from abroad. And this is a way to increase incentives to invest in digital literacy. So as I was saying, I think Kenya is considered Nairobi is considered one of the digital hubs in Africa. But in fact, even there, you see that many firms lack a lot of experience, of knowledge, and so we are currently preparing a project to help bring better international expertise to advise these firms and help them grow. I will not, on this slide, so what I cover is these non-routine skills that need to be invested in, right? So it is important, aside from digital skills, to invest in skills that are complementary to technology. And these include socio-emotional skills. And these trainings of setting goals have been shown to have an impact. And we have a very nice project with Ishkur that is run by other colleagues to help workers better plan, set a realistic goal and better plan to achieve this goal. And this is something that I have heard in many other public employment services to say, people have unrealistic expectations on their success in the labor market. And I've mentioned many times this example, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it progress and see the results. So how do you help people set realistic goals so that they can stick to them, they can follow through, and at the end of that, they actually have a job that corresponds to their talent, right? Now, when you were commenting on Microsoft, training, you're like, oh, why would you expect the private sector to do that? It's an interesting point. Indeed, I think there is an important role here for public intervention, because at least as an economist, this is a classic case of market failure, no? Normally, firms want to invest in skills that they can use specifically. As soon as skills become a bit broader, then firms may be a bit more afraid of poaching, of having another firm take benefit from the training that they provided. And this is where there is a very important role to play for public employment services. Now, one challenge, right, as we were talking about acceleration, is how to identify these new skills in demand, right? Because they change all the time. And I was talking about this with a colleague who works really in ICT, which is not my case. And he was saying that even firms, and in particular in low and middle income countries, are not totally clear on what will be the need. And the example that you were mentioning on, GE now needing to hire all the data scientists around in the US tells you something about the lack of preparedness potentially of the private sector, right? Because if these needs had been realized 2 years ago, then, they could have invested in these programs. So I think there is both a huge opportunity for actually public intervention, because many of these skills are broad and transferable, but that there is also need to better identify the skills in demand. And one very important dimension is the need to train and retrain all the time. The last part of this slide is about sort of how to try to increase incentives. So training accounts for individuals, sector-wide training, and then subsidies to encourage firms to invest. I will finish on sort of how to use technology better. So there are many examples of a good use of technology. Information is obviously a public good, and technology allows to sort of share it in a cheaper way. And what is interesting is that this is beneficial even to workers with low skills, and including low literacy and digital literacy skills. So I like this example from India. Baba Jobs is a private portal, but that provides employment opportunities to people with very, very low skills in India. And so this is a promising example of using it for people with low skills. In Peru, an actual rigorous impact evaluation found that providing SMS information on job opportunities increases employment by 8 percentage points. Better use of information on workers. I worked on this in Croatia, and this is, I think, for a while something that we have been discussing with Ishkur on the profiling of job seekers, right? How to better use. Many public employment services have very rich data. So the question is how to make better use of it. I think Sweden is an example of that applies a simple model of statistical profiling. And so we have been discussing how to implement it potentially with our colleagues from Ishkur, but also how to use technology to better do skills assessments, right? I mean, if you think of, I think, a classic skills assessment in the past, you have one person who's here and it takes a lot of time, and then analyzing the information takes a lot of time. In other work with my colleagues from Ishkur, we were, I think, we were discussing skills assessment in particular for Syrian refugees who have some language challenges, but also for the Turkish population. And so, technology really can help to do things faster and better. I think that there is one nice area of convergence between sort of two relatively new things. I mean, one is technology and the other one is behavioral economics, right? So acknowledging that we can all be lazy, that we can procrastinate, that we don't always follow up on our actions, etc. And so the technology can help to remind people that they need to do something or to help them plan for it. And so in this intervention that I was mentioning earlier, in Turkey, people do receive an SMS, before the day of the training to remind them to go. They also receive training via videos. In the US, there's an interesting example of a partnership between the Department of Labor and Ideas 42, which does behavioral nudges, also to sort of change the text of the emails to help people be more involved and then follow up on their actions of job search and take up training. That's it. Thank you very much. I don't have business cards, but if you Google me, you'll find me.
Thank you, Ms. Safir, for reflecting the expertise of World Bank. And after having two speakers with a background of Microsoft, now we have brought you the manager of Microsoft's Moroccan subsidiary. So, and Mr. Hisham Irak Husseini is the general manager, yes. And he has been on this duty since 2017. And he is a state engineer holding a diploma from the very prestigious school of Muhammadiyah. And he has an experience of 22 years in Morocco and also in Dubai. And he left Microsoft for a while, and he came back in 2014, back to Moroccan subsidiary. And in between, he worked for the Nokia Siemens networks. And now we are very eager to hear what he's going to tell us. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be part of you today. Thank you for hosting me here. I would like to tell you about what as Microsoft we are doing in this very disruptive industry with all the new technologies. Disrupting the economy. I would talk about globally what are we doing as Microsoft. I mean, we have Microsoft Philanthropy, which is kind of our arm for supporting community in order to get them ready for the next jobs that are happening in the world. I will not, talk that much about this. I think that all the speakers before highlighted many times that we are in the middle of a big disruption. I have maybe two things to say here. The first one, that we are in a world where the economy is shifting. I saw some statistics talking about by 2030, $200 trillion will move between companies, and mainly it's coming from companies who are more in the computer science edge, who are taking control on the companies or the market where the traditional companies were before. One example, and you have maybe many on that you can mention. Tesla, for instance, even though they are producing less than 100,000 cars per year, their market capitalization is the same as General Motors, who are producing almost 1 million cars per year. So this is just one example, and any kind of Uber-like it could apply on the same. So with disruption, there are really different kind of jobs who need to be created, even jobs that we don't know today. And exactly 65% of children entering in primary school today don't know, about the job they will land into in the future. So this putting us to ask ourselves, what should we do ourselves? To prepare this next generation to be ready for the job of the future. This is really a fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves as individual, as community, as companies, and what we should do in order to help this new generation come in to be aligned with the market. And I heard Nasser saying that. It's quite a pity to see that our education system, I'm talking about the case of Morocco, and this is the case on many countries. We are still training our students with the curriculum that we did 10, 20 years before. There is something deeply wrong. So, definitely this is what I was saying, that we need absolutely to work for the new generation, but not only that. We need also to work, but by not leaving anybody else behind. Some statistic about the US, only the business of tracking the driver who are driving those long trucks across the country. We are talking about almost 2 million drivers who will be losing their jobs by next 5 years. So it's really short run, and we cannot imagine that we come up with new solution with the driverless car, with the drones, with whatever other solution for transportation and logistics, and just forget about those people who will definitely lose their job. We need to think about how to reincarnate them, bring them back to relevant jobs with the computer science and new technologies. As Microsoft, we are defining digital skills. We are trying to have quite broad definition of digital skills, from computer science in education, and for informatics, IT professionals, and we are every day learning about new digital skills that are coming to the market. We are talking also about digital citizenship. This is something new. Digital, designer. This is something that we need to include. So we are trying to embrace as much as people, as much as different industry, to bring them together in this digital skills ecosystem. And definitely we are asking ourselves, why computer science? Again, computer science is really the new currency of any job. I heard lots of people talking about the number of opportunities that we are missing over there. And I like the example of GE. Their former CEO, who said every employee should be a developer. And for me, even the Microsoft CEO is saying that every company is a software company. And this is it. I mean, we are seeing this again, the example of Tesla, of Uber, Airbnb, and you name it. Those companies were able to challenge the status quo, to challenge their market due to the computer science capabilities. They give them the capabilities to be very agile. And a decade before, we're talking about big companies, there are 18 small companies. Today, we are talking about agile companies, there are 18 big companies. And again, if you see the market, the big top 5 market capitalization in the world, they are all coming from computer science background. And here again, it's a matter of defining why is it's definitely the market, but also the wages we are seeing. Here is an example of the US market that can apply to many other markets, where we see the difference on the wages depending on which diploma we are getting. Definitely with computer science major, we are really ahead of the average market salary or whatever. So again, I mean, computer science teaches the real skills that we need. It's not only about programming. At the end of the day, not all of us will be programming, but basically what computer science teaches is all the capabilities about creativity, about problem solving, about looking at the things from different perspectives, from different aspects, to be more creative, to be more agile on the way how we address problems. And this is, again, applicable for any kind of industry. And here is a list of what computer science can bring of skills, coordinating with others. Those are the skills that we need for definitely for today, and we aim that we need those skills for the near future. Unfortunately, we don't know the jobs of the future. So we need to forecast and to oversee what kind of jobs we will see. And one example, because at the end of the day, we can ask ourselves, okay, everybody will go, we'll start developing, we will be having lots of needs of computer science engineers, for instance, or developers. And I remember in 2008, I saw one of Microsoft product. It's Visual Studio.net at that time, 2008, and I saw one capability was able to generate automatically codes. So you go through kind of workflow. I will not go through too much technicalities, but at that time I thought, man, I mean, it's done. I mean, it's over for developers. They will not anymore can have that high skills jobs. And today we see that we need more and more computer science engineers, and the future will be even will show us that we need more and more. Something essential that we're trying to solve as well with our approach on addressing the challenges with the deficiency on computer science skills is to address also the diversity side. You know, as much as we are diverse, as much as we are more productive, as much as we can really have more intelligent solution to provide to any business, and definitely our vision is really to embrace as much as people from different race, from different female as well. And additionally to that, we observe that in the STEAM, science, technology, education, and maths, we have only 20% of female who are coming to this area, while the numbers are talking that the females, they have more capabilities to be very successful in computer science degrees or major. So our approach as Microsoft is based on three pillars. The first one is to build the capabilities. The second one was to advocate for the change, and the last one to create the demand. And I want to go through it. very quickly on how we do it on every single. And here I will I would like to focus a bit on this code.org initiative that Microsoft created with other players in the industry. Code.org, it's kind of a website where we can teach at any kind of level, any kind of any age. We can let people learn how to code. Within almost 5 years, we have been able to address more than 10 million people across the world. And this is something tremendous. And the good things with code.org, as an example, anybody of us who can initiate to work on how and to learn how to code, and then he can become himself teaching and showing the people how to use it. And I want to share with you one example of how we have been successful to impact one of the community by engaging with them in computer science. This is a small video. I hope the sound will work perfectly.
When I was a kid, out of this was the biggest dyeing and finishing plant for textiles in the world was here. And then Lane Company shut down, and then Burlington Industries. It's just weird. I mean, my first job, public job, not farming, was here. And my mom probably worked 40 years here.
You lost about 7,500 jobs in 2005 to 2007.
It's going to take a spark for it to come back up.
We were looking at what we need for our businesses to succeed, what kind of trainings we're lacking in, and a light bulb just went off with Carol. And he was like, we need computer science. We don't have anything like that in the high school.
I wanted them to have an opportunity to, say, okay, Microsoft believes in you. I believe in you. The leadership of the town believes in you, and they're willing to invest to bring you these opportunities so that, there is hope.
So he did some digging, and he came back, and he said there is this incredible program called TEALS. Everyone was all in.
TEALS is Microsoft investing in programs to bring computer science to kids that don't have an opportunity to get it another way. There's a series of volunteers, IT professionals, that want to invest their time in helping students learn computer science.
Methods use parentheses, right?
The whole program is about training the teacher so that the teacher can pay it forward.
When you see that light bulb go off on a kid when they finally grasp a concept, that's what makes it worth it.
I think it kind of helps me determine what I want to do in the future.
And these students, they understand that they're not going to work in the same place that their grandfather and their mother and their father, how they worked.
The next step for them will hopefully be a college or technical school or something where they put those skills to use.
They can go away to school and they can become anything that they want to become. And I want them to bring that same hope back to Alta Vista that Carol did.
If I had the opportunity to do what I want here, then I don't think I would leave.
It's all about people helping people and inspiring each other and giving each other opportunities. So if I can help, and TEALS can help spark something for somebody else, I think that's wonderful.
So this is one example of what Microsoft have been achieving with the one community. And something that is really interesting to see here, that people would love, to stay nearby to their family, where we see, I'm taking the example of Morocco, for instance, where most of the people, they need to come to the big cities to work, while the computer science, by design, it can be a remote job. So we need, to work on that side as well. This is something that we are doing here, even locally, that I can share with you later on. The second thing is to advocate for long-term and systemic change. And there was a lot of things was said before around policies and the policy making and how to work very closely to introduce the computer science courses in very early age. And the best way, to do it definitely is really to introduce it in the curriculum and to have the part of even the exams, that the official exams the student they will be taking. And this is definitely something that we need to work on into it. Imagine even in the US, we have less than 30% of college who introduce computer science as part of their curriculum. So we still have a lot of to do, even though in the US. And again, in the opportunities around computer science, they are huge in the US, and the number of students who are graduated every year, they are not even enough to address, I mean, the needs in the US market. One number, I mean, the last year, the number of open position in the US was around 500,000 position, while the number of students graduates was around 43,000. So the gap is still huge, even in the US, and the same apply to our countries as well. So again, as I said, so we need to start by really working closely on introducing the computer science, but also on debunking the myths. I mean, most of the people, they think that computer science is only about coding, and again, it's not only coding, it's really to adopt the creativity behind the computer science. Computer science is not for someone like me, and we have lots of examples that people really adopt the computer science and help them to create complete different future for themselves. And they are kind of myths that we are working onto it on daily basis to help people to understand what is the interest of computer science and how they can adopt it. This is the example of code.org that I talked about before. Our impact as a company and our model is typically to work on train the trainers. Whenever we are adopting this approach, we are having most impact, because I mean, we train teachers, for instance, who are able to train their students, and this is definitely our approach every time we are moving. One example here in Morocco, we have been working with the Minister of Education, and within 4 years we have been able to train 120,000 teachers on basic skills for computer science, but it was huge. I mean, we started by training 500 teachers, and then they were able to duplicate and then to train the trainers. And our next wave, starting from next year, is to start training the students at grade 5, and then go below the grade 5. This is one testimony of one young graduate about how the computer science helped her, and how she is eager, I mean, to go and to help others to make difference on their life. And the last one I want to share with you is our aim on getting people involved with these initiatives as Microsoft Philanthropy, on how to become, each of us, advocate for computer science, how to promote it all, how to voice, I mean, to hear the voice of young people, of as much diversity we can embrace through our approach. And definitely we are working very closely with our NGOs, and we have a couple of programs where we are supporting the NGOs to go abroad and to address as much as people they can. The volunteering program, we have a couple of materials. I will share with you the website, is where we have a couple of materials with anybody can start being volunteer and bring people on this journey of computer science skills. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Well, we are almost out of time, and I still want to conduct a question and answer session. We have learned a lot from the speakers, but it's very nice to see that speakers also enjoyed the presentations of each other. So this is a good sign that we are on the right track. And now it's time to lure some more information out of our speakers. So please raise your hand up and stand up and introduce yourself if you have a question. And please also indicate to whom you are directing the question. So any questions from the room, from the audience? Okay, Michael. Do we have an extra microphone, please?
Hello, my name is Mikael Sjöberg, and I am the Director General of the Swedish Public Employment Service. And I have one question, and I think it's mainly to Ketani. And before that, I should say thank you to all speakers. It was very interesting to listen to all the presentations. I have a question. It's mainly not so much related to PES or to my daily job, but everything you all talk about is the digital future. And I'm more interested to see if you can say some word, what is your idea about the consequences if we don't speed up? And mainly also, I can divide the situation in two parts. One part is that we quite often working with in PES. It is to train or to give opportunities to unemployed people. Maybe in the future our mission will be broader because we need also to train and educate people who want to change job or need to change job in the future. But if you go into the more high-tech shortage of job, you took the example, one company is trying to hire all the university students. If they fail, or that Facebook or Google fail to fill their places, what will be the consequences? Because in one way you can say, okay, this is not a comet who's coming to the Earth, and we have some month or some year to handle the situation. But can you, like in your point of view, develop that idea a little bit? Because an easy answer is that, okay, if we come into that situation, we're going to lose some opportunities. But do you see more? Can you just give us some words? What happened if maybe more the education system fail than the public employment system fail?
It's a great question, and I think there are going to be. I mean, again, this is futuristic, right? But my view of this is there will be a race between countries. It's not only a race across companies where Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Tesla, etc., are trying to get the best. But I think countries, they are not going to stay and wait. So if you don't do it in Sweden, Finland will do it, or France will do it, or the UK will do it, or perhaps Estonia will do it, and you will lose the opportunity. So the question is, for any policymaker in any country, is how do I lead this in this space? And what do I need to do, to attract the best, etc., and to develop? I think it will happen by seeing really policy development in specific countries, developing and attracting. Just a few comments. The two CEOs, the CEOs of amongst the largest companies here represented, Google and Microsoft, are actually from India, when you think about it. And these guys, they've done amazing work. In India, did fantastic job, building for, computer science engineers, etc. They're massive, right? And when you look into the, how many go to the US, thanks to H1B1, I think this is the visa number. They're smart about attracting, and they know what they have issues there, etc. They will do what is required. I mean, every country will do their job to attract. So that's what I see. I see, though, worldwide, there is a big missing opportunity. Because when I see the gaps that we have here today, and we talked about it, we are going to see more acceleration in the gaps, acceleration of acceleration. I like that, actually. It's just a missing opportunity for growth of GDP across the world. It's just not one country, it's everybody. These are all opportunities that we miss.
Thank you. Yes, Peter.
I am Peter Mikkelbusch from the Norwegian Employment Services. I got a question to the first presenter, Anna. You were very optimistic in your presentation, which is a good thing. in Norway, not only of some 60% of the vacancies, they are transparent and placeable in a way where we can play a role. Do you think that with the new technologies that the labor market can become more transparent, and do you see such a tendency in Sweden?
What a lovely question. I mean, we work with Norway a lot. Sweden and Norway are very close, as you all know. And we, of course, see this happening at the moment, that with all the new technologies that are happening, we can get a much better joint, what can we say, a joint future together, so we can help out. So the technology will help us get even closer. And my point of view is that if we haven't started yet, we really have to do it now. Because what we see is exactly what you're talking about, that the gaps are huge. I mean, all the high-skilled works that we have, there are gaps. We can't find them. And we've tried in Norway, and like you said, 60%, that's a lot. And if we think about the whole country of Sweden and Norway and Finland, it's not enough people. We need so many more. And we might find them in Vietnam or Morocco or somewhere else. I mean, this is what technology can do to us. We can actually join the world together. I think it's interesting what Michael said yesterday. He said that it's so good that we talk to each other. We don't shoot each other. It's really a good thing. I'm thinking exactly the same. This is why we are here. We have to help out and see what technology can do to each other instead of creating these gaps. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic and positive thinking about what technology can do, because I don't know how to make the technology, but I know what it can do to you. And I think that's probably what we have to do here. We have to see what's in it for me and what can I do to change. Not like it's everybody else's fault. It has to start with me and what can I do now.
Thank you. And yes, perfect. And yes, Lenka.
Thank you. My name is Lenka Kind. I work at International Relations at VDAB, Flanders in Belgium. I have to say that I got already a lot of answers to the questions I had when I came here, so thank you for that. Very good presentations. But still I have one big question coming from my colleagues. I will give an example. My daughter has a PhD in languages. She couldn't find a job. So she went last summer to New York. She became data scientist. It costed her $26,000. She didn't have employment benefit at that moment. She didn't have anything, so she put all this money in it. She came back to Belgium. Every week she had 20 vacancies, work offers. And it appears that for natural language processing, there are 2 persons in Belgium, she and another one. So it costs a lot. It's a lot of efforts, but also money that she put in it. She could do it because she comes from the family she comes from. I have to say it. But my question is, who is taking the initiative of organizing these courses, like in New York? The question of my colleagues is, where do we have to ask for help? How can we find somebody willing to organize such a kind of courses in Belgium? And who is paying for it? Who is financing it? Who is deciding on the content? These are the very concrete questions that my colleagues have for me, for you, because I don't know.
Yes, anybody who would like to answer the questions?
This is coming from private sector. I mean,
yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, this is what Microsoft is doing, this is what Google is doing, this is what others are doing, and obviously other players. And this is the market failure we're talking about, because there's a problem here, which is, the public university is not doing the job, and then you have to go, and then at the end, and then go and pay something extra for that. That's a fundamental failure. The good news is, companies like Microsoft and others are actually doing that, because they see the need. And it's interesting because they see the need not only for themselves, they see the need for their customers and their partners. So they see the market demand and they have to invest it, which is, but they cannot scale. there is a fundamental scale. Even with the millions of numbers that you're talking about, or you mentioned 1 million, right? You still have a scale problem with private sector. So government has to step up, and you have to, and then, so I think it's, as I suggested, there needs to be work between government and private sector. Believe me, content exists. Don't try to go into the content, because these guys are good at that. Really, really, they've developed amazing stuff. Your job, government job, is to actually help scale, sit them with them, partner, get the teachers that they can train, get the money, etc., and get it scaled. But don't go into the content, because they're good at it. They're really good at it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, definitely very brilliant, points are making here. I think that the challenge we have is how to address the education system in order to provide enough people who are skilled for the job. And the biggest challenge with the education, they are really in their comfort zone. I mean, I'm talking about some experience I had, and the teachers, they don't want to move. So again, we have been talking about the policymakers. We need to give them something interesting for them to make the move and to get out of their comfort zone and to invest on their time, energy, in order to upscale and to be at the level of what we are expecting for the newcomers to the market. And it's really something that we need to address as a whole, not as a part. What we are doing as private company, we are addressing the issues somewhere, but definitely, as Nasser is saying, we cannot have this large upscale that the public sector can do.
And just right before another question, also World Bank would like to add something. Abla?
With the Chatham House, Abla. So I think I'd like to say two things in answer to your to your question, right? I mean, because indeed, this is an example. I mean, education is a typical example where you can have a market failure in the sense that there are some returns that are beyond the private returns of the individual, and this is what makes the case for public intervention, right? I think, but I think, what's important for the education system, the basic education system, is to provide the good foundational skills. And these are cognitive skills and socio-emotional skills that then allow people to learn. You mentioned, your daughter already had a PhD. She already has a very good education. And when you're at that level, even deciding yourself to invest into more technical skills is something that you can do, and maybe you can bear the cost because you will have returns, right? So, but that takes me to my second point, in which I liked very much both Google and Microsoft's presentations, because they cared a lot about inequality. In particular, I have to say the Microsoft presentation, right? Because I think to tone down a little bit on the optimism, and and as optimistic as I am about it, and as much as I am encouraging my counterparts in Kenya to use more technology in the delivery of services. But I think the issue is whether some people either don't have the basic skills or the means to finance further education. And I think that this is where there is even more space for public intervention, right? So that's why I liked very much, the fact that in the Microsoft presentation, you discussed a lot inequality across ethnic groups, across men and women, across rural areas, because the video that you presented was in I think, probably not, it looked more like a rural area in Virginia. So, and I think that this is where there is a very important dimension on the rise of inequality that has been seen in both high and low income countries. And this is where I would tone a little, the optimism on that. I think that if the private sector needs skills, it will find them. It may need to pay higher prices for them. It may need to find them farther away. It may indeed, Sweden may need to go to Vietnam. But this will happen. I wouldn't worry too much about whether it will be possible to cater to the needs of the private sector in some sense. Because as an economist, I believe that if there is demand, there is a price. It may be higher, but people can pay for it. So, but I think the concern is more whether at least for us at the World Bank, would be more more, aside from the growth dimension, whether some groups are excluded from this process for various reasons. And this is where there is even more case for public intervention and even more case for, say, public employment services to work with vulnerable workers, right? The target population of a public employment service is not the super high skilled, you know, they will find something to do, you know, they will manage. The question is people with low skills and more now people with medium skills, right? Because what we see is a sort of polarization in the labor market, right? Some basic manual skills cannot be automated yet. It's not easy to get a robot to do a good massage, you know, or even to be a good cleaning lady in some sense. And it's not easy to find a robot to do, you know, very complex work. But it's very easy to find a robot to do the work in the middle. And that's the new, I think, role also for public employment services, not only on the lower end of the skills of the distribution of skills, but also in the middle, actually, in the middle end.
Okay. Thank you very much, Safir. Okay. Can you share it with us as well? Can you share the brand with us as well? Too? We are also interested. Okay, we can have one more question from Anna.
My name is Anna Delibasheva and I'm working for the Bulgarian PES. And my question is related for those who are illiterate because of many reasons. Some of them has a job, some of them not. We can't wait the education system to adapt the programs, some company for providing training services to adapt the program and to design the new one. You have our lecturers has a great experience on this area. May you advise us how to behave and how to compensate the gaps of the different systems who are not under the umbrella of PES, because we are obliged to deliver services to people who are our clients. Thank you.
Okay, and you, sir?
Merci. Pour une fois, excusez-moi, je vous amène à porter vos casques parce que je parle pour la première fois en français. Je réponds au nom de Mamatna Soricienne du Tchad de l'Afrique centrale. Ma question que je voudrais poser, bon, en partie, je pense qu'elle a été prise déjà en compte avec la dame qui est derrière moi. Nous sommes en train de parler de l'alphabétisation numérique. En prenant en compte les trois niveaux qui sont la compétence numérique, l'utilisation numérique et la transformation numérique. Quelles seront les mesures d'accompagnement pour les pays qui sont encore au premier niveau, c'est-à-dire au niveau des compétences numériques?
Okay, so let me translate the question. The question is, what are the mitigation measures for basic level countries? Mainly, they are at the very basic level of digital literacy. And what are the measures for mitigating the effects and increasing the digital literacy? So,
sorry, you don't mind if I answer in English? So I think that what we are seeing with this fourth digital revolution, it's challenging, but for the countries, I mean, with all those gaps, it's really an opportunity. I mean, the good news about the technology today, that is accessible to anybody at the same cost. I mean, definitely, I mean, I'm not talking about the ones who are creating the technology, but I'm the ones who are who will be who will be using the technology, that it's affordable. I mean, today, very sophisticated technology are available across the world. I mean, but definitely, we have some prerequisites, we have some requirements as a good broadband connection, computers, but still, it's affordable compared to technologies that we are talking about maybe 20 years before. And you have good internet connection, you can access to the cloud, and you are part of this new world of new technologies where you can access to cognitive services, when you can access to machine learning, IoT, whatever, blockchain, just you name it. So I think it's really a good opportunity today for even the countries who are suffering from who are at the basic of digital literacy, to make this leapfrog and to move at the very speed level to access to the highest level of technology, and to compete with even those, I will not say the advanced ones who are creating technology, but at least with the ones who are really utilization or using the technology in order to transform their countries, transform their companies.
Thank you very much. Would you like to add something?
We don't need to be top of, on creating technology. We don't need to. I mean, when you think about it, nothing, literally nothing that Uber has as a technology that we could not have developed in Kenya or in Morocco. Nothing, zero. Nothing, zero, literally. It's technology that could have been developed anywhere in the world. And with zero, literally almost zero investment, as you were saying. So the question is, how do we focus our energies into creating those things? I mean, and it's interesting, the other dimension I want to add is how industries and these disruptors are coming to the market today. And let me give you a very simple example just to illustrate what it means. If you think about fintechs, we talk a lot about fintechs, today, etc. And what is the difference between a fintech and a bank? Traditional bank. A bank is an organization in the financial services that uses software to do the business. A fintech is a software company that operates in the business of financial services. Completely different perspective. They master software development, and they say, I'm going to do software development in the context of financial services so I can beat the bank because I'm more agile. This is not the case of a bank. And you can apply this to anybody. Google is a software company that operates in the advertising business or information-based business, which is different from Publicis, complete different business models, etc. But their core business is software development. And you can apply it to Tesla for the cars, you can apply, and I think this is the opportunity for developing countries. This is the biggest opportunity for developing countries. Because as you said, a drone today costs $100. Connected to the cloud, and you can solve farming problems because all the technology that you need is available at a fraction of cost. Never happened in the history. This is where we need to focus. So we can leapfrog. I think we should not go step by step. I don't think that's, and the best example is mobile. We did not go in our world, following the French or the US example by moving from the fixed line to mobile. We said, okay, we don't need fixed line, we go to mobile, straight. And we go straight to broadband, immediately. We can do the same. Today we can do the same.
Okay, one last very short contribution. Yes.
Answer the Bulgaria question.
Yes.
So I wanted to maybe address this question and maybe a little bit respond to the following question. On illiterate people, I think there are things like that I had in my presentation, but that I didn't mention, like interactive voice recording, right? I know that this is, for instance, used in Mali to encourage people to save for their business. So I think that this is what is very nice about mobile phones in particular, is that everybody has them. They don't even need a smartphone. It can be a simple phone. So this is about using, not about programming. But in terms of using digital means, there are actually some promising examples. And I think Kenya is really a very nice example of, M-Pesa, mobile payments, etc., used in rural areas by farmers to indeed provide information on their land and then being advised on how to farm. So there are, I think, many, many promising examples, including for people with low average literacy and with low digital literacy.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we exceeded our time. but we took advantage of being the only session to be repeated only once, to be conducted only once. And I would like to thank all our speakers, all our valuable speakers. Hopefully our rapporteur Gizem Kayataş will be giving a short summary tomorrow morning to all our audience. And one more announcement, at 8 o'clock in the evening we will be going to a Moroccan dinner. We will have a nice evening, hopefully. It will be at 8 o'clock outside the hotel, so please do not be late. And thank you all, and a big applause to all our speakers once more. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.